Are you, as a Malawian, proud of our cities? Can you compare our cities to our neighboring countries? Are we progressing or retrogressing? Where have we missed it? And how can we improve? Welcome to this week's edition of Times Exclusive on Times Television TTV. My name is Vayana Chunga, and our guest this week is Mr. Noel Chalamanda, the former mayor of the city of Blantyre. Stay tuned. Remember that this program is brought to you courtesy of our sponsors, Rainbow Paints. Mr. Chalamanda, welcome to this program.
Thanks so much, Wayana.
You have recently been in the media agitating a rethink on how we manage our land, our cities, and even preserve our history. What has been the motivation? And I know we'll have this conversation bilingual. Where necessary, what has really motivated you to start talking about these issues?
So you see, Wayana, I'm a Malawian. I need not say that. I would like to think I'm very patriotic. I've grown in this country for almost all my life. But within that time of my growth, I've traveled to a few countries. And let's not talk about far away countries. Let's talk about our neighbors: Zambia, Mozambique, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Kenya. And what I've noticed is we are not growing at the same pace as our neighbors. We have stagnated. And one of the reasons behind our stagnation...
Now, what kind of development are you talking about? What kind of growth are you talking about?
We haven't grown in many sectors, including our economy.
Okay.
And this is reflected even in the appearance of the country. And when I talk about the country, I'm not only talking about the cities, I'm talking about the whole country. If you travel across the country and you do a comparison with our neighbors, you appreciate that, notwithstanding the fact that we have probably equal resources in terms of natural resources, or maybe sometimes in certain cases even better, we are not doing just as good as our neighbors. So the question is why? So there are many reasons to this, and one is our infrastructure is not as good as theirs. We have not developed it. And how is it that we have failed to do what our friends are doing? So this has been a tormenting question to me. And I've been trying to find the answers. And then again, it's obvious to anyone that we remain an underdeveloped country that is not even heading in the direction of development. If you compare with what our friends are doing across Africa, I'll just give you one example. If you go to Tanzania and you are in Dar es Salaam, just look at the activity in terms of what are they building in Tanzania. You see so many cranes, you can't count them. They're up in the air, they're building something upwards. So to use a crane, it means you're building something that's really tall. How many cranes have you seen in Blantyre in the past 5 years? Probably one. And I'll tell you, even to this day, there's only one crane in Blantyre. Why are we not building as fast as our friends are doing? Are we not good enough? I don't think that's the reason. What's choking all this progress? So when I was looking at all that, I looked at a few other things that we have. I just took an example of Blantyre. You know, you look at Blantyre, you see beautiful buildings. And it's a beautiful place, surrounded by beautiful hills. Naturally, it is beautiful. But we have not taken advantage of its natural beauty to enhance it and to make it a city that really smells, feels, looks like a city that belongs to this century. We are 100 years behind.
Now, we'll start with national monuments, and I know we'll get into several areas, but you are making an argument about how we preserve some of these national monuments. And as far as you're concerned, in some cases, we should be willing to say, yes, thank you for the history, but we need
to improve this building. We need to replace some of these buildings for the sake of safety and, and even just the elegance and the beauty, you know, of the city. Can you just maybe add more, can you enlighten us more about that?
So you see, Wayana, in Blantyre, for example, well, I focused on Blantyre and specifically around Victoria Avenue.
Yes.
Where we have the Magistrates Court, the Service Department, the Old Town Hall, and a small little building called, is it a tourist center or something like that? These are along Victoria Avenue. Victoria Avenue ought to be one of the most expensive streets.
True.
Okay? Like you got the banks there.
That's the CBD.
That's the CBD. That's the heart of Blantyre. Now, I'm saying, could it not be better? Really, could it not be better? When you see those buildings, I use one of them as a coach user, being the courts.
Yes.
Every time I walk in there, I'm like, are we really serious? You look at the floors, they are cracking. The walls, they are cracked. The roof can be blown away anytime, okay? They have not been maintained for I don't know how long. Because painting them, the thing we've been doing for the past 20 years, is not fixing the, you know, the structural integrity of the place. So I'm saying if we can't maintain them, what use are they? Because they are a hazard to people, the people that are using them. And you look at them, they just don't make sense where they are sitting.
But they're part of our history.
Whose history?
Malawi's history. The city's history.
Our grandparents didn't build those things. They were built to serve the interests or the administration of the colonizers, number one. So yes, the colonizers may be part of our history, but are they really the history that we are proud to keep? At the same time, it's choking our development. That's my argument. I am not saying let's wipe everything else out that was brought by the colonial master. My argument is it making sense to our generation and to the future generation? Because it's not about serving the history of the ghosts long gone. It's about our history as Malawians, number one. That could be part of our history. But is it the best way to keep our history? Is it the best way to remember our history? We can archive all this information and put it in the museum. You know, all the things that we remember as part of our history are not standing where they used to be. Rios Hotel, I've given as an example. Even the political heavyweights that we had in the country that died, we are not keeping their corpses, but we have their history. We still have them, the history. We still remember them, all right? So we can still remember these buildings without having them occupy space, which is prime land, which could be used in a better world to address our needs in terms of development, catching up with everybody else in the region and in the world, and of course addressing issues of safety. You know, every city must be looked at as a living organism. It is born, it must grow, it must regenerate. And if we cannot regenerate our cities because of a story that we had some century ago, then there's something wrong with our thinking. The defense usually has been, oh, these are protected buildings. Protected buildings by who? It means we, the owners of the law, that is protecting these buildings, have chosen to protect those buildings. But the very same law, if you read it, I'm not saying this law is bad. I'm saying we should understand that law. The importance of the Monuments and Relics Act is not only to preserve, it also allows the minister responsible, I don't know which ministry that is, to delist those buildings that they think ought to be delisted, they think are unsafe, they think they could be turned into something different. But when was the last time you heard of a building being delisted?
Now, wait a minute. So you're talking about the minister responsible.
Yes.
And we're also talking about it's in the city, like for example, the buildings you're talking about,
Yes.
are within the confines of Blantyre City. So who has more authority on that? Where do you demarcate? Where's the line between the authority of or jurisdiction of the mayor and the minister responsible?
Well, primarily, it rests with the minister to delist. But the minister can be moved by the city councils. The city councils, what they need to do is to motivate for the delisting of the building. And when I say motivate, is to come up with a rationale, a basis or grounds for why the building must be removed. One of the grounds would be safety. Another ground would be regeneration of the city. As I said, it's a living organism, and you want it to grow. You're growing out of space. Blantyre is growing, it doesn't have enough space to expand. That's probably subject for another day or later in the program. But when I say Blantyre does not have space to grow, you understand what I'm talking about. This place is small. It is surrounded by residential properties. How does it expand? No. If not upwards? If not by removing the buildings that no longer serve our interests? Because if you look at these structures, are they really in 2026 serving our interests? We could have the same departments of government occupying the same space, but creating a better environment that is safer, that is more appealing to the eye, that makes sense in the 21st century, that accommodates a lot more people than it is accommodating now.
True. Mr. Chalamanda, one would argue to say you were a minister, you were a mayor. One would argue that you were a mayor for the city of Blantyre, the very city that we're talking about now. Why didn't you delist, for example, or motivate for the delisting of some of these monuments that you consider to be inappropriate to the city of Blantyre?
Wayana, that's a very important question. And let's be frank here. Maybe we failed in our job, right? But the fact that I never got to do that doesn't mean it shouldn't be done. It doesn't mean what I failed to do was the right thing, right? But let me take you back. I'm sure you're referring to the Red Star.
Yes.
Number one, tinapanga Red Stars, kuti mabuilding awa tigwese. And rationale yake inali yomweyo, sizili safe, sizili za modern, let's rebuild our city, let's regenerate. Sizukuoneka bwino. Tendi zichosezi, timangeso bwino. Okay? Zimene zijatinambanga ma buildings ambirimbiri, ena sana pangidwe nao Red Star. If I recall very well, I think the town hall may have been Red Starred. I am not very sure, I would have to check. That notwithstanding, the very same argument that we advanced for the demolition of certain buildings owned by individuals, I think should be advanced vis-a-vis my buildings, even our government, because of unsafety, because of the importance of regeneration of a city, because we need to expand, because the population has grown, because we need more space.
True.
And we need to be better, right? So I am saying the very same reasons that we used for the buildings that were Red Starred applies here. Maybe the stumbling block in this case would be the argument that this is listed. But then we can use the very same arguments to delist these buildings so that we can come up with something better in the name of regeneration of our cities, in the name of safety for the people that are going to be using these properties. So these buildings are not sacrosanct, are not untouchable. They are touchable. They can be removed. They can be delisted. They can be remodified so long as we do that according to the law. And I am saying the law that preserves heritage also allows for the demolition of heritage if there's good grounds for it. And I am saying
yes,
we have very good grounds for removing these unsightly buildings,
yeah,
over and above the fact that, hey, it is not our history.
No, you've made a good point there, but I've looked at you, and I'm sure many people consider you that way, that you are patriotic, strong-willed, determined Malawian. And for you, actually, when you were mayor for the city of Blantyre, you know, you became a very popular person, a very popular leader in the country, to say. But when it came to this issue, when it comes to this issue of the Red Star campaign,
Yes.
it looks like somewhere, somehow, there's a roadblock that maybe you may not be as comfortable maybe to talk about. Anthu amakamba bezonena kuti khala ngati pali pena pake chipazi chimene chimaza lepheresa kuti nyumba zinazi
Let's talk
zigwesedwe.
about this Chipazi.
Yes,
It's our country.
what is it really? What gets into the way?
And it's out there, it's public information. That when we started this, somebody went and got an injunction, right? To restrain the city from proceeding with the campaign, right? That was challenged. That was way back, was it in 2014, 2015? Do you know to this day, the judgment has never come out?
Wow.
The injunction granted and challenged way back about 10 years ago, there's still no judgment.
Wow.
So as it is, the injunction still remains. So if you're talking about Chipanzi being the injunction, I'll tell you, now there is another arm of government that has not helped the situation. And we can't beat about the bush.
Yeah.
The judiciary,
That's the judiciary, yeah.
has not assisted in this matter. I'm not saying it ought to have vacated an injunction. At least come up with a judgment to say we are vacating it or not. So people know the next steps. But up to now, you don't know which way to go. Because even today's mayor, if he got up today and said, oh, I'm going on this campaign, these people will be entitled to say, hey, there's this injunction we
Yes.
got 10 years ago.
Yes.
We still haven't got a judgment. So, you know, this effort of city regeneration, country regeneration, is not just about city councils.
Yeah.
It's about everybody.
Exactly.
All arms of government, all citizens, all people coming together.
Yeah.
You know, I will tell you this thing that I find very pathetic about us Malawians. We complain, we don't get to do so much about our situations. Out there is positive energy by citizens to build their countries. Kunoko, positive energy, maka building my house, building my mansions, building apartments for rent, but not building the country. That's so wrong. So we are building personal empires.
Where do you think that is coming from? Because as you said it, nkani zikuti ziteke. For some of these matters to really be pushed successfully, we need the judiciary in.
Yes.
We need the legislative branch
Yes.
of government. We need the executive.
Yes.
We need every citizen to come in. What is wrong with us?
I don't know what is wrong with us. I really don't know. But you know, from my perspective, sometimes I think we have abused the concept of democracy, and we have used it in a way that has not been helpful to the country, to the development of the country. It's clear that everybody's got access to justice and all that. They have got the right to approach the courts and everything like that. But the way we have manipulated these offices of the judiciary in the name of democracy, I like using this expression, in the name of democracy, in the name of human rights, okay? We have gotten so many things so wrong. It's not about getting things done my way because I can. No, that's where we're getting it so wrong. Because if you got money, you will approach the courts. You'll get that order. And you know, justice can be expensive sometimes.
True.
So it will favor those that have money because they can finance it. But at the end of the day, even those that have money will not happily enjoy their money. I'll give you an example. I'm looking at Nyambado here. Beautiful mansions, surrounded by slums. You think those people are really enjoying being in those mansions, surrounded by the slums next door? No way. But we are not doing anything. So we are not doing much to even alleviate the situation in the neighborhoods. Nyambado versus Mbayani. You're watching Bayani grow. You're watching Bayani becoming unsanitary, becoming dangerous. Okay? But instead of helping that situation, we are carrying on building mansions, townhouses for ourselves and neglecting the whole country. And maybe, extending this argument, maybe the country's institutions haven't helped the situation. Because if Malawi Housing was able to provide decent accommodation, maybe we wouldn't have so many cases of such slums. Maybe if the Department of Lands and Housing was actually Department of Lands and Housing, providing sustainable, affordable housing to its people, maybe we wouldn't have this situation. Maybe if the city councils were not just bent on allocating plots to people, but actually building something that is according to the master plan of the city, maybe we wouldn't have places booming like Mpemba, booming like Chireka, beautiful mansions, but in such a disorganized way. So there are so many departments of government or public institutions that bear responsibility towards this chaos.
You earlier on hinted about the way we are building, and you talked about Blantyre being pretty much surrounded, hedged by these
residential
areas or properties that have stopped the city from swelling out or from growing. Now, one would think, and you don't have to be very intelligent to figure that one out, that what you think should be done is people should build upwards, or at least build more than perhaps one story. But you see, in prime land within the city, people are building just maybe 2 stories or 3 stories, and that's it. But this is prime land of Blantyre.
That's another problem with the approvals departments, okay? The city councils, what do they approve, okay? The Department of Fiscal Planning, what do they approve? You know, I'll give you an example, sorry to say, but along the Chipembere-Kamuzu Highway, there are new buildings there. How tall are they?
2 or 3 stories, and
that's it. Is that going to make sense 10 years down the line?
No.
It's a waste of space. But this is what we approved. This is what we are approving, even to this day, when we don't have space. Maybe is something wrong with what we approve, what we allow to rise in our cities. Just across, same along Chipembere Highway, have you seen what Odmincho is doing? Now, to me, that makes better sense. On the other street, come on. Stuff that will not make sense, give it 10 years. So it's about the approving authorities. We should be strong enough, strict enough to say, no, this is unacceptable. We can't do it. We should be able to do that.
I know you have traveled to the neighboring countries. In fact, just last week I was talking to you, and you were in Tanzania. If you go to Dar es Salaam, if you go to Lusaka, if you go to Maputo, you know, if you go to all these neighboring countries, Harare, you find that, as you say, there are cranes. People are building, and it's beautiful as compared to Malawi. When in fact you fly into our country, you know, sometimes it's very pathetic, you know, to think that this is how Malawi looks. But when it comes to the lessons that you have taken from your travels, what do you think are the fundamental values or lessons that we can be able to emulate from what other cities are doing? But also I know that when you were mayor, you travel to other cities as city-to-city relationships that usually are bilateral relationships that are there. What are some of those things that you have learned from your years of travel that can change the trajectory of how we build and maintain our cities in Malawi?
You know, Blantyre used to be one of those cities that was a pride of Africa, way back, way back, because of its cleanliness and orderliness. We just lost it. We lost it because one of the major reasons, and this is what I think could assist this country, is to allow law enforcement be undertaken without discrimination, right? We should be able to say, You cannot build a 3-story building here. It doesn't matter who you are, who you know, who your uncle is. That's the law. So enforcement regimes have been compromised for too long. It's about who do you know? Who are you connected with? We don't enforce what the law says in most cases. Because if I keep saying this, if we manage to enforce even half of what the law requires in every department, we would be an orderly place, would be an enviable place. But we compromise a lot because of who we know. We compromise a lot because of the office of that person. We don't strictly abide by what we have accepted to be our laws to govern the way we're going to do things. So laws will be passed in Parliament. And you know, in most cases, we have sufficient legislation to allow us or to permit for proper development of the country. The problem is enforcement. It's discriminatory enforcement. It's compromised enforcement of the laws that we have. That's a major, major hiccup. And even sometimes when you're doing the right thing and you have not spoken to certain people or you've not given them a certain good handshake, they will come in the way with a lot of hurdles, administrative objections. Oh no, but wait, we haven't done this. Oh, there's this. Oh, there's that. We are frustrating investors, genuine investors that could come with proper infrastructure, proper projects that would help this country boom. But personal interests, in most cases, have compromised our situations.
Yeah. Now, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, I would want you to talk about land issues in our cities, but also in the country as a whole, because that's also a very contentious area, you know, that has dragged us down. But I would also want you to add more weight on the issue of reinforcement in the country.
Thank you.
Welcome back. You're watching this week's edition of Times Exclusive on Times Television TTV. My name is Vayana Chunga, and today we're talking to Mr. Noel Chalamanda, the former mayor of the city of Blantyre. Mr. Chalamanda, you talked before we went for a break about reinforcement being an issue. Kuti timatokhala ndi malamulo athu, kuti samatere tatere mzinda, koma kuti wina pange reinforce zimakhala zovuta kwambiri. Why is reinforcement a problem? And I'm asking this from you because inyo munakhalapo. Mayor nde mwina mukudziwa ndipo mutautunikira some of those challenges that are there. Why is reinforcement a problem in this country?
Ine ndikuona ngati malamulo athu ambiri pamene timakhala busy panga malamulo abwino and maiko ena amakopera malamulo athu ndipange so extend kuti nkhani si malamulo okha komanso even my policies, even my strategies, okay, kupanga ichi chabwino kuma implementation zero, enforcement zero. Timalephera abantu kupanga enforce and enforcement nthawi zambiri imakhala kuti nthawi zambiri imakhala government departments, eti, and sindizo ndi chani chimene chimachitika ku government. Koma ine kuti ndinene muona mtima nditaonera kuti tili nkachibwana kena kake kuti akupasa ntchito yako ndi iyi ndikumangobolobosha osagwira ntchito ichi, okay? Ngati ntchito yako ili yokuti upange planning ya malo awa, master plan ituluke apapa and wina saphwanye master plan ichi and iwe sikupanga zimene zozo nena kuchosa ntchito.
But don't you think anthu amaopa masiku ano ku Malawi, I mean, if someone, for example, the police akuzana kutena kuti ayi kumene kuja kwa bwana kapena akuti ndakuti mene munanena
kaza kuti
yes,
we compromise the law. Comma, if 10 of us said, this is what I'm supposed to do and this is what I'm doing, I think that should be okay. Koma akachosedwa munthu mmodzi wina akupindira njira kuopa. Chifukwa chake zilizonse chizingopindika. Koma if tonse takhala kuti tikugwira ntchito mmene tinena kugwirira ntchito, I'm sure zizitheka. Komanso amene akulephera kugwira ntchitoyo ndimanena izi kuti government pena pake izitha kunena kuti akulu tinakulemberani ma-TORs and awa mwalephera kupanga not even 30% of what we employ to do, get out. Even government should be able to fire people. Before ikafika nthawi kuti awa tinapatsa department iyi alephera tachotsa. Osati ngopanga transfer kukuchotsa blanda kawika konsaje kukuchotsa. Mzaziwa kuti I must work to deliver. Maybe pamene zinthu zingambe kusintha. Akagwidwa kuchotsa. Akulepheresa investor kuti apange chinthu chifukwa afuna ma kickbacks kuchotsa. Koma basi kumangopanga na transfer kuchotsa kutransfer and then again democracy panopo imapanga za metinatengera democracy inabwerera democracy kuti every 5 years kubwera ma elections nditekezo kuti wachosedwa chifukwa cha incompetence nthawi ino ikubwera boma ina after 5 years akuzakutenganso.
How can we end that cycle?
Maybe our democracy also should be addressed. Sizongotenga democracy kuti azungana democracy makhala chonchi nguzati pasa ku Africa kuno. We must adapt it to our situations and to our needs.
Contextualize it.
Exactly, because what works in Europe doesn't mean it will work in Africa, but maybe there are good elements that we can take, like freedom of expression, freedom of this, freedom of that. Not everything, not everything, especially when you're dealing with people that are poor like ourselves, who first want to eat before they can start, kumanga nzinda, who first want to feed their children before they can start thinking of going to school, people who are not as informed as Anzatwa Europe. So there are certain things, there are certain situations, I will say this, it will sound rude, but I think it's true. Some people are not capable of making good decisions for themselves. And maybe someone must make good decisions for them, just like makolo ndi mwana. Mwana tamana ndi mpenu kundisangalasa kushaina kuwala bwino. Koma the parent will know kuti ukucheka ndikulande. No matter how painful it is kumulanda mwana uja, koma mulande because it's good for me, because that mwana uja, because he's not well informed, because he doesn't have experience. Somebody must help them make a good decision. So I keep saying this. There are so many factors that affect our people to such an extent that I dare say most of us are not capable of making good decisions for ourselves and for our country. And we may need some help in that regard. It may be called, you're imposing these decisions. In certain cases, it may be right to impose decisions.
We may need help in that regard.
Yes.
Help from where, one may ask?
Well, help from those even within us that are knowledgeable, that are experienced, that have faced situations and resolved situations or traveled and learned. Because somebody traveled, but they have traveled.
Yeah.
Ndikupita ndikukhala kunja kuja zaka 5 nkubwera kuti kodi amakapanga kuchani. People amapasidwa opportunities to go and learn. Do they really learn? Or just take pictures and see things in kumabwerera? So it's about going there, learning and coming and implementing and having the courage to implement, having the courage to say, this is how it must be done. We can't do it like that. It doesn't matter who you are.
Now, we'll go to the issue of land, and it's one sticky issue as well in this country. I know that you've got your own opinions about where we're going wrong and how we can improve things.
Oh, these are my opinions, by the way.
Yes, these are your opinions, and respectively so, and you're entitled to them. Where are we going wrong on the issue of land? Because land is very precious.
Yeah. And it's not expanding. Now, Ghana land, I'm trying to go back to 1994 or a situation before 1994. Nali wachicheberebe. Koma at least I remember there was a bit of order at least if you compare with the present times. After we became a multi-party democracy, panabwera ka element or ka feeling ka free for all. Ndaganiza kuti ndizilima apapa. Ndaganiza kuti ndizigulisira magalimoto apa. Ndaganiza kuti ndizigulisira mbatata apa. Free for all. Land usage alese anguganiza kupanga mena kufunira. Then again there's been a lot of movement of people from the rural areas to the cities, urbanization. Then people come to town and they start living like mendi makhalira kwathu kumudzi kwa Kalanje. Koma ai town muli malo ake ndi dongosolo lake. Now what has even made the situation worse, I will say this as it must be said. Number one, the land in Malawi vests in the Republic. And it vests in the president. Mwini wake ndi Malawi, oyang'ana wake ndi president. Then through the Ministry of Lands and through other departments like my city councils and my departments, they can allocate pieces of land. And I will say this clearly. Kugawa malo sinkhani ya mafumu. Timaopa kuyankhula izizi koma tinene mwa chuchuchu kugawa malo sinkhani ya mafumu. And it hasn't been that customary land therefore. All land vests in the president. And ikama kakuti tukugawa kuti a president akugawa mphamvu zogawa malo simafika mpaka na kwa mafumu ya. Koma you will notice now dziko lambiri malo ambiri akugawidwa ndi mafumu. And akagawidwa ndi mafumu akumagawidwa in such a way kuti sakumafunsaso kuti kodi boma lili ndi maplan otani mbali mwanse wachileka.
Angogawa.
Amagawa ngati munda. Munda apa, munda apo ndi umangokaupindika. Zokuti pazafunika pazadusensewu maplan amenewo kulibe sakuganiza zimenezo. Zokuti magetsi azafunika adutse, mapaipi amazi azadutse, mwina so kuti tisunge malo asukulu, malo a shopping center, malo a entertainment, malo kosowerana, zonse zija akamagawa minda amati minda sakuziganizira. So agawa ndetu katenga surveyor akuika mabikoni. Numakapanga apply for lease for that land. And we are allowing a lease to be issued to land yoti yagawida without considering the plans for the area.
So anthu ajama pita kwa mafumu kumakatenga mazikalata kuagawira
zonsezo kulakwitsa tikulolera kupanga zinthu zolakwika chifukwa chikuti timakhala ndi kamantha kena kake kuti tine kuti mafumu chonde simungapange izizi malo awawa dongosolo lake maplani ake ndi awawa koma izizi I would say the Ministry of Lands ought to be in control to say no, you can't do this. I'll give you an example. Ku Rwanda, even kumudzi sumangoti tayambana pano kuti basi ndikatsegula muzi wanga apopo ndikakhala mfumu kumeneko aitu even kumudzi kuja it's so structured. They call it imigudubu, something like that. It's structured a settlement ya village. Inu munaulukapo Malawi muno kuchoka pachileka kupita kolo ukafika ku north maka undafika ku north nde muziyang'ana pansi muzaona kuti kamuzi kali apo muchileka momwemo mapita mbali ya kuneno kamuzi kali apo paja nyumba ziwiri papiri kena kali kuphedi uku kena kali mbali mwa mtsinje aliyense angupanga pamene akufuna. Now the question then becomes again kodi mene mwamangiramo nde muzina kuti kunoko tufuna school, kunoko tufuna chipatala, kutufuna madzi, tufuna magetsi. How do you think the government will give you all those amenities? Mene mwangokhala scattered all over the place. Very unstructured. Nde boma likupasani bwanji zimene zozo. Zimene likakwanise boma ndikubwereserani ma ballot papers. After my ballot papers you so chilichonse because it's too expensive, it's not manageable. So the government itself must start and be courageous enough, I will say courageous enough, because makanga diso tukuopa opaso kwauza mafumu mene zinene ukhalira. Koma it should be courageous enough to say, you know what? Midzi kunoko tisanja moteremu. Let's be organized. Because tikaika school panobo, ndeuti ipanga cover radius yotere. If you're not within that radius, you'll be covered by, the school ina yake. Koma kungoti mbwe all over the place. Muone ngati kuneno Mwanza mukamaenda kwekwerere. Timanyumba mmapiri uko kumpoto chimozi pakapira apo chancha. No, we can't do that. Tikapanga choncho, we are making it too expensive for ourselves. We are making it impossible for government to give us the services. And then again, tukupanga cover land yokuti we could have freed for other enterprises like proper agricultural land, proper factories, proper zoning. Koma the way we are just spread all over, we are not helping the situation. Then ibwere anthu akuchokera kumudzi because they want a better life in town, kupanga zimene akufuna, we are not helping the situation. Then we are using human rights, we are using democracy to do as we will.
Ndimafuna ndipite kumeneko kuti inu ndi lawyer mapanga za malamulo. Anthu akhala kunena kuti dziko lathuli likulephera kuti litukuke chifukwa cha anthu ngati inu maloyano. Chifukwa china chilichonse mnanena nkhani ya injunction. Anthu amathamangira ku court. Nafika nthawi nake malemu bingu anafika nthawi yone alofuna kuitesa injection. Koma penapake can be frustrating because on one end you want to do things, but because people are protected, by the law, by the freedoms and what have you, legally, it's difficult and people just give up. We can't make drastic changes and big decisions in terms of issues like land and how we develop our cities and our country. I don't know. How can we make the law not to be our enemy, but rather a partner and a tool for development?
As it is, the law is not our enemy, and it is a tool for development, the tool for everything else that is good. Komano is the way we use it, the way it is compromised, and it is compromised by us as litigants and to Okasuma, us as lawyers who want to win it for their clients, us as the judiciary, who are not balancing the greater good of the country versus the need for an individual to prosper individually. So it's a balancing act, okay? The same law should be, at the end of the day, we should be using it to save the community, to save the country. But Makangati, it's so tilted towards serving personal agenda, I'm not saying the judgments are wrong, but what I'm saying is judiciary being an arm of the government, in whatever decisions they make, they must also have at the back of their mind the greater good of the country. Okay, this person could be right. How do I balance this with the need for a road to save 1 million people? How do I balance this with the need for for better infrastructure in this area? So that is important. And that's why I'm saying, it's easy, Samango Pange point fingers to executive government, point fingers to parliament, point fingers to city councils and stuff like that, or my mayors and everything else. Everyone else, including the judiciary, has a role to play to understand that the individual decisions that we are making in individual contexts have repercussions on the bigger picture, which is the development of the country.
On the same issue of land, there's been a debate about land ownership by foreigners. Ndantu timakukana ena ya mukugulisa malo kwa anthu obwera, ena ya damena ndi ndalama so tapase, and it is contentious. We know that in other countries it's extremely difficult for a foreigner, to own land. In fact, in some countries they don't even allow at all. How do we reconcile being a friendly country that wants to accommodate foreigners versus protecting our land and our interests for the future of our children?
Malawi will never expand in terms of size.
True.
The population will keep growing.
True.
And that population that will keep growing, that will remain in this country, is our population. In our Abwera, azatipula acho sama minerals ali masoya ali machanchani apanga ndalama azipita. So we must understand that we, the owners of this country, Malawians, have the primary duty to protect what is ours. Komano ndife tomwefe amene mazungulira konde nkumaka nama in terms of information in order to sell land where we are restricted from selling land because of a quick back. So it's not just about government, it's not just about public institutions, it's also about institutions. Enforcement of the law is getting compromised. That's where we're getting things wrong. Let the law take its course.
True.
Okay? That's where we need to change things. Because I'm not saying foreigners are not welcome. I'm not saying investors are not welcome. But let's follow the law. And what does it say? We'll give you land if it's for investment purposes. Anything else, tell us exactly what you want to do. And let's follow the law. Koma basi kwamba so kuzemba kudia kupanga investment umanga grocery, rent house investment. No. So the law must come in and stop this chibwana. Yes. And then when I say the law must come in, I'm not just talking about the enforcers, I'm also talking about the branch that helps enforcing the law, which is the courts. I'm talking about the executive making those hard decisions, because these will have to be hard decisions.
Yeah.
Pamenda fika ife panovo, I don't know kuti tipanamba chani ku nkhani yosaukai.
The last I checked was number 6 in the world.
We can only do better, and we will not do better when we are, unable to make hard decisions. They'll be painful, but those decisions must be made in every sector of development, in every sector of life. Can the investment, can the mining, can the land allocation, whatever it is, can the immigration, they must be hard decisions. They'll be painful, but that's the only way to get out of this mess.
We'll have to make difficult decisions as a country, as a people, in order to change. And I think that's very powerful. Some have described Malawians as being timid, weak. Is this a reflection why sometimes leaders, government, the judiciary, politicians and chiefs and whoever, takes advantage of who we are? That we're too polite? That we can't really stand for what we believe in and what we want?
I'll be slow to say we are timid people, but I'll also be honest to say in situations where we've been required to make hard decisions, we have shied away, we have been hesitant, or if anything, we have just refused to decide. This goes for both people in private sector and people in public service. And what has made the whole situation worse, especially from the perspective of public services, where the decisions have been like to dismiss people that have not performed, to dismiss people that have not enforced what ought to be enforced, that has not taken place. I'm yet to see, I'm looking forward to the day when a minister will be able to say, sorry, Mister, I'm relieving you of your duties. You have not performed. That courage to do what is right, rather than to just sweep it under the carpet. I think that is what has been lacking in most things. And I'll also say our situation has been compromised by democracy. Sorry to say this. Changing governments after every 5 years. And that expression nthawi yathu usually means nthawi yokuti tikaje, not nthawi yokuti tikapange serve. So instead of building on what the previous regime has done, we go there, take it all down, kuti tijekaye, tibwenzerese kumene tinachosa kuja, paja tinali kuzuwa timwekaye madzi, ikamaza kwana nokuti we're getting to the election time, it's back to square one every time, we're not moving forward. So for me, maybe this is a subject for another day, but I'll tell you frankly, the way we have implemented democracy has also compromised our way up. So maybe Sikulina Zagambezi, the need for another constitutional conference. Because the last time we had it was when we were moving from single government to multi-party. Maybe it's time that we reviewed if democracy has served us well, or it needs to be tweaked in a few places to serve us well. Because personally, there are areas that have given way to retardedness in terms of development. The focus for us has been getting into government and not moving our people upwards in terms of financial and economic independence. Maybe that has been the rhetoric, but on the ground, it's a different story.
So on that note, thank you very much for being our guest in our today's program.
Thanks so much, Wayana. Thanks to Times Exclusive.
And indeed, on that note, we come to the conclusion of our today's edition of Times Exclusive on Times Television TTV. And today, we were talking to Mr. Noel Chalamanda, the former mayor of the city of Blantyre. Until next week, when I'll come again with another guest, my name is Vayana Chunga. On behalf of Rainbow Paints, our sponsor, and indeed on behalf of Mount Sochi Hotel, who have allowed us to shoot our program, it's goodbye.